Well, another good morning from Traverse City. The second section of the Gotham North FEI North American Youth Jumping Championships presented by USHJA is just about to get underway. We have a very competitive list of pre-junior competitors, 27 of them to be specific, coming forward in this team competition. They're going to jump twice here, 2 rounds over the same course designed by the USA's Nick Granite. We just saw the children's team competition play out, and now it's time for the fences to get a little bit bigger. These riders are just a hair more experienced, so it's certainly going to be an exciting class. They bring forth faults from yesterday that separate the teams out, and we have a lead. Zone 10 has taken a pretty significant lead, but that all could change considering there are 2 jumping rounds. So kicking things off here for zones 1, 3, and 5, they have a combined team. Campbell Hudkins rides Firefly AS for Stonehenge Stables. And Allie, what did you make of this course? How do you think it was different from the first one we saw today?
Yeah, this definitely rides a bit more technical. Things are a little bit more connected than the last class. Like starting about here, you have a double of verticals, very careful, to a very airy big oxer. Bending 6 strides, you'll probably see majority do that, to then a very steady 4 going up into the corner. And then from here on, you'll see the same 4 we saw in that last class, the 4 to the 1. And then out here, you'll probably see them stay out in the 7 to that very careful plank that we saw in the previous class in a different place. And then the 5 coming home. But those last 5 or 6 fences, they're all connected. So it does ride a little bit more like an indoor, everything connected in the same place instead of just a line going around the corner to catch another line. So that was a good start.
It was a good start. She did run into one time fault, so it seems like the time there might be a little tight. I think she was 65 and change. So 65 seconds time allowed here for this single round. So a bit quicker on the pace there. It's taken the pace up a notch, and the jumps have gotten a little bigger from yesterday as well. So first out of the gate is clear over the fences, which is a good score to contribute to her team, which was coming into this event on a score of 11.51. Of course, that score being taken into account from the times they accumulated yesterday in that faults converted format and then multiplied by a factor of 0.5. So it's a bit confusing looking at some of these scores and wondering where they come from. But now it'll just be, I believe, just each rail will count 4 points towards that overall score. So moving right along, Sloan Betker rides for Canada aboard Canberra.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little confusing to calculate from that first day. But again, if you want to have faults, if you want to have faults somewhere, you probably want to have it on the first day, because after that, all your faults carry just like a normal rail in the ground, which is 4 faults. So from here on out, if they have a rail down, that's an additional 4 faults added to that penalty that you carried forward from yesterday. So yesterday, the only person that will start on a score of 0 is the winner from yesterday's class.
Winner yesterday was fellow Canadian Matilda Candell.
And already we just have 1 down, that big airy oxer. Didn't quite get across the back rail. It is going up into the corner, so it's a little bit spooky for some horses. They hold off of that, and I think that's what happened to this Sloan. Finished nicely, though,
yeah,
in the 4
finished
faults.
nicely. And within the time allowed there, so hopefully we shouldn't see that be too tight for many riders. It's always hard to be the first one out, not really know exactly how comfortable that time allowed is. It's just 1 rail down there for Sloan.
Yeah, exactly. We'll have to monitor that time allowed. It's very difficult for that first rider to gauge that, having not watched anybody, but I think people kind of get the idea that it is a little bit snug. I think it's a little more snug than the children's. So that's just another factor to consider here. You got to keep going. Even if you want to give the fences some room and respect, you have to keep hustling.
Switching Livia Martin now, riding for the team for Canada. Last Canadian was a team alternate or individual competitor. So now with karate, she is recording the first score for the team for Canada. They come in on a score of 9.85.
Yeah, just like you said, I mean, there's a difference of of team riders and reserve riders or individual riders. And so she's riding for the team. The girl previous to that, I think, was a reserve. So she has a little bit less pressure in that sense of just riding for herself. But at the same time, at the end of the day, on Saturday and Sunday, everyone is going to be riding for that individual medal.
Really sporty little horse. I believe this pair made an appearance here last year as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of people when walking the course thought to maybe to bend out from 10AB to 11 and the 7. It looks like she kind of went in a little bit, I think, on the 6, a little last-minute decision, but got away with it, and that was a beautiful round.
Excellent way to start there for Canada. First team rider and a clear round. And so far, really having a nice time with this course. That's the first completely clear we've seen, but we did see Campbell Hudkins ride to just one time fault. And the only other rider has just had one rail. So nothing too catastrophic out there just yet.
So we definitely know it's rideable. Definitely can get under that time allowed as we've just seen with Livia. That was a beautiful round. I think people will start taking note now. Now the pressure's on a little bit to produce those clear rounds. And Canada came in with a strong showing this year throughout all 4 categories. You see a lot of red shirts up there, which is great. It's great to be so supportive. I think they've fielded at least 3 of the divisions for teams. And good
Canada
riders.
off to a great start this week with Aaron Ballard taking the win in the welcome stake last night. So FEI competition going on here this week as well. A lot of FEI riders here. In fact, there were 47 starters last night. So a lot of these riders, I think, have aspirations to get there at some point in the not too distant future.
Exactly, and this is, you know, basically the platform to do so. And it's nice that they can maybe experience another FEI class or a star level class while they're competing, and they're young riders get a feel for that next step.
So first member of the team that comes in with the lead, Zone 10, riders from the west coast of the United States. Juna Lauder leads the charge with New Star Van de Berghove for Roaring Fork Farms. They come in, the team comes in on a score of 1.83, Juna herself on a score of 0.96. I believe she ended up in 4th. She put a really fast round in early on that looked like it might be hard to beat, and ended up just slightly getting edged out of that top position, but it was very close up there at the top.
Yeah, that's a comfortable place to be, especially when you're under 1 full penalty. So she has 0.96, so that's less than a time fault away from that first place person. And again, this is, you know, this is a marathon. This is a lot of jumping still left to go. So, you know, you want to hang in there, be patient, be in the top few. Doesn't mean that you need to be in the first place right now. And you'll have a lot of chances to hopefully move up. And looks like I think people are maybe going to opt for that bending 6 to the 5 at the end. And beautiful round from her.
So keeps that score as low as possible there for Zone 10, but it is just 1 score recorded of 8 that will ultimately come in by the end of this team competition. So we'll see how the rest of the cards fall, but she keeps her score to a minimal, continues on the 0.96 penalties.
That's a very good start for Zone 10.
Gabriella Curry up next, riding for Zone 4. We saw Zone 4 just take the gold medal in the children's section. So we'll see if they can keep the luck rolling in. Gabriella rides Candace Bergen for GA Stables.
Yeah, Zone 4 fields, again, another very strong team. They might even have an alternate riding in here later as well. I'm not sure. Very strong riders. A lot of team spirit. You'll see a lot of the orange. Had to ride a little strong to 2. The horse was backing off quite a bit, but got it done. And now she needs to think just a little bit about that time. Moving up in the 5 to the 1.
She wasn't quite as quick yesterday as I think she would have liked, coming in on 7.08 penalties. The team is in a good position, though, 9.97 penalties, so not too out of reach, I believe sitting in third coming into the day today.
Yeah, she's really fighting for that round today. You can tell that the horse is a little bit backed off. You know, the jumps are in different places than they were yesterday. The horse is really trying hard, putting in some big efforts, and she's really helping hold his hand and guide him through this. One more fence left. Got it done.
Well, she really earned that. That was some excellent riding there. Really made the horse feel more comfortable and looked to settle in the more that he jumped, or she jumped.
Yeah, that's a great round for the team, and that's also a great round for her as an individual to not add anything to that 7.08 penalties.
Well, that brings us to Riley McKesson, aboard Armstrong de Moyon, riding for Zone 3. Looks like it is a combined team. So second line rider for the team made up of Zones 1, 3, and 5. We have one team here with just 3 riders, so we haven't gotten into the first line rider for that team yet.
Yeah, it's nice that they're able to, you know, if you come as an individual from a zone, you know, you didn't field a team, it's nice that you can be combined to create that team feeling, have that team atmosphere, even if it's not with your zone per se. And jump nicely through that. That's a delicate line. We saw part of that in the last class. The same 5 to the 1. Now instead of a triple combination, he shortened that up to a double. Coming to the spooky oxer. Into the corner for the 4 strides.
We are seeing some rather new materials. We saw them bring a couple fences in from the Hunter rings that maybe have not served as big jumper jumps for some of the international classes here.
Exactly. You want to keep it fresh, you know, so with so many days of jumping, you want to keep the material fresh still on that last day. So Nick really has the opportunity to play around with a lot of new ideas. And that was a beautiful ride.
So this course, I mean, while it presented quite tricky with all the intertwined elements, I think they're handling it very well. I mean, these are very talented riders. Obviously, they've earned their spot to qualify to be here. So they're living up to the challenge right now.
Yeah, it definitely, it rides, or at least it walks quite tricky. It's riding a little bit, I think, nicer, putting it all together. And, you know, these girls are also riding up to the challenge as well, and the horses are right there with them. You know, they did qualify, so you see the best of the best from these zones.
Sophia Popescu is second line rider for Canada. She rides Giandra. She was the drop score yesterday for her team. They also had the class winner on this team, Matilda Candel. So they're sitting on 9.85, and with a clear from Livia Martin, they're looking pretty good, but she's certainly looking to redeem herself. Unfortunately, maybe not going to be the case. Might have to circle and try that one again.
Yeah, she started really strong. This was looking like a really good round. I'm not sure if the horse just studied the Liverpool that's underneath that oxer, or maybe she just steadied a little bit too hard for that 6 strides. It's, you know, you're coming off a forward 5 to the 1, and then it gets really steady coming out of there in the 6 strides. So just a little bit of a miscommunication.
So she's going to wind up and try this one again. Make sure she really nails that approach. And gets it right that time.
Yeah, no problem with the water. Maybe it was just a little miscommunication, trying to get that horse back together. Rode hard at that aqueduct wall, but had no issues.
Well, she knows she's already into time territory, so can see her kind of taking a little bit extra time around some of these turns.
It's really too bad because this is a beautiful round, so it's a shame that one little miscommunication can lead to that. But again, at least you're on you've got that team surrounding you. Hopefully you can be maybe the drop score and just improve it in the second round.
Yeah, I mean, that is the nice thing. Like, there was so much good. She jumped all those fences so nicely. It was the one little mishap that kind of got in their way and ended up turning that into a higher score. But that's such an easy fix coming back. It's not like there were problems that she faced in multiple places. So hopefully she can return and turn that into a clear or just a better score in general. So on to an individual rider here. Sydney Levy rides for Jamaica aboard Ortega de Fer. And she returns on a score of 2.69. So a pretty comfortable place to be. She's within a rail of the lead. She can really show off her consistency. That could be a very competitive score going into the final few days.
Exactly. That's a really competitive spot to be in. You know, you want to aim to be within a rail of that first place person. And then it kind of just comes down to, jumping a lot of clear rounds. There's a lot of rails to be had. Just consistency is going to be the key here. And again, it's nice to see, some other countries represented. We have Jamaica. I think she's riding as an individual. But it's great that she came out and made the trip. Got a little bit long to number 9. Just didn't really come quite off the corner as much as she had hoped and had that back rail down. Other than that, that was a really nice ride.
That was a nice ride. So a bit unlucky there. Just didn't quite meet that fence exactly where she would have liked to. But again, something I think she can come back and pretty easily fix, knowing that she has another shot at this course.
Exactly. I think, she went to go set the horse up around the corner to number 9, and it just got a little bit stuck in the bridle, and by the time she put her leg on, it was just a little bit too late to cover that back row.
Jackson Romrell up next, riding for Zone 8. Looks like he is another individual competing. He's aboard Flynn String for Christy Kaufman. Rode to a score of 6.66 yesterday. So just looking to stay in the running here. 2 clear rounds could really improve his standing, especially now that rails are 4 points apiece.
Yeah, exactly. A rail from here on out is way more costly. Especially if you're riding as an individual. At least you don't have the pressure of the team, but you do, at the end of the day, still have that pressure trying to get on that podium. And same kind of thing. We'll see if he comes back to challenge that again, but just looked like either the horse looked down at the water or he maybe tried to steady a little bit too much for the 6. That's posing a little bit of a problem.
Yeah, it's interesting to now see that a couple times back to back. Seems like the fence, not only is the distance a little tricky, but I think the fence itself might be taking the horses by surprise. So the combination is just causing them to want to not jump it.
Yeah, and he came back just fine. And just came out of the air a little bit off that oxer as well. Just maybe didn't get quite up to it. And again, the spooky oxer going into the corner following with a spooky aqueduct vertical. So that whole line is meant to hold you or hold the horses off of those jumps, especially going into a dark corner.
Yeah, so a little unfortunate there with that refusal that added on quite a few faults with all the time faults accumulated, and then the 1 rail down there. So certainly things he can fix, though, in the second round.
For sure. And, above all else, this is really experience for the horses and the riders, and you walk away with so much into your next competition or the next year. So what you take out of this is huge.
Lauren Fransden up next, riding for Zone 10. She was another one of our top placing riders yesterday. She rides Golda. She finished on 0.28 penalties. Second line rider for Zone 10. Already a clear coming in from Juno Lauder.
Yeah, so that's another low score. She must have been in the top 5 for sure from yesterday, so that's a great place to be sitting.
Zone 10 finished just off the podium in the children's section. So I know these pre-junior riders are really wanting to prove that they came here because they're very capable of taking the top spot.
Yeah, and again, Zone 10, they're a little bit unique in the fact that they do have their own qualifiers in their zone, in their region, unlike every other zone. It's really just off a point system and a ranking list, and they have individual qualifiers at specific horse shows that you must compete in and get your points and prize money from there to qualify to come here. And so far, this is looking like a really solid round. Did the 6th.
Just one from home. I think time should be okay.
It's another super solid score to add to their team.
Yeah, Zone 10 is jumping very well here today, as they did yesterday. They had a few of the top 5 placing riders in yesterday's class, 3 of them to be specific. So nothing to add to that score of 1.83. It keeps them on a very low score with 2 riders having gone already. But there's still a lot of jumping still to come.
Yeah, they're looking like some serious contenders out here, so I think the other teams are going to start to take notice.
So first rider for Zone 2, just 3 riders on this team, so at a little bit of a disadvantage there with no drop score. It says Myra Krishna, Fanatic to Alfie for Drakari's Sport Horses LLC. They did have an unfortunate, not this rider, but Zone 2 had an elimination yesterday. So that ended up adding a significant amount of penalties to their score, coming in on 38.20. So
especially
hope is
when
not
you don't
lost,
have the ability to drop the score.
Exactly, yeah, that definitely hurt them a little bit, but they're still coming out to give it their all here today.
Yeah, and if you have an elimination, you still are able to jump today. You know, I think they do the calculations and then add an additional 20 penalties, I believe. So it is very costly, but at least you are still able to continue.
Mm-hmm.
This is looking like a really solid round. Had a good rub at that last, but it stays in the cups.
So this course really is proving to be quite jumpable. It's not been error-free, but with quite a few jumping clear, and when there are errors, they're just minor errors. I think the only reason we've seen some scores with higher faults has come down to time faults.
Yeah,
Circle
exactly.
here
I
and
mean,
there.
this is looking pretty jumpable. But again, we do have that second round, so it's anyone's game at that point. You know, it's a different mindset when you've already jumped a clear round in the first round and you come into the second. You know, there's really nothing to like improve upon. So, you know, some people, you know, it's just a mindset, and it's definitely a mental sport. So you just have to really mentally be prepared. Try to do the same thing you did in the first round. There's nothing to really improve upon. So sometimes there's not really that drive to push you, you know, to change something. And, you know, sometimes you may end up riding too delicate or too nice, and that's where you might incur a fault. This came in a little bit deep there to the skinny.
This is an alternate for Zone 10. Valentina Lehner with her ride Cookie Dough. Kelly Lehner, the owner. Might be my favorite name of the class.
I always love a good name. Got deep again into the double of verticals. The horse was smart. And then smoothed it out into the 4 here. Just had 9 down as well. Got a little bit deep and hit it with the hind legs. And the same with fence 11. Just didn't hit it quite even. Was a little bit deep there, and the horse had to struggle to get it over.
This looks like 12 to add there, coming in on a score of 5.03. That's going to be a little costly there for her individual score, not contributing to a team though.
Yeah, so it looks like this might be Zone 10's reserve, as they already have a team fielded, very strong team.
Well, we're just shy of the halfway point of this first round. Suzette Tittle bringing us into that halfway point. She rides Bull Run's Valor for Zone 4, who already has recorded 1 clean score. Suzette herself coming in on 11.61 faults.
Yeah, I think Zone 4 looking to have a repeat from the children's. Maybe that got them a little hyped up, but again, this is just the second rider, so we're just now getting into minimal calculating of all the points. Got a nice fence to number 1, a little bit easy to 2. I think maybe with a bigger, slower horse like this, she just has to kind of think in the back of her head of that time allowed. Yeah, that 6 gets extremely short. It got extremely short with this big horse, but also with all the smaller ones as well.
Yeah, you really have to think to stay wide through that bend. It's just definitely hard to do because you almost have to push out to the rail.
Now she just has to be a little bit aware and keep that turn neat, just like she did for that time allowed. And hold it together for that last line. And she did. That was a beautiful round.
Yeah, and within the time too. So it was well timed. She looked a little steady in places, but she must have been neat around all of those turns. That time allowed proved to not play a factor. So adds another clear score to Zone 4.
Yeah, it just goes to show, you know, the partnership you have with your horse. You got to know their strengths and weaknesses, and you know that horse seems to have a huge slow stride, so she really kept her turns neat and tidy and then really took her time down the lines that she didn't have to rush.
It's Malia Radcliffe's turn next, riding for Zone 5, which is a combined team, Zones 1, 3, and 5. Riding Emma Lee, and coming forth with a 7.3 penalties personally. The team on 11.51 coming into the first round of competition.
Yeah, I'm a little bit partial to Zone 5, as that is my zone, so I will secretly root for them. Malia's had a little bit of experience. She did the zones last year, I believe, on the children's team. So at least she's been in this ring. She's gotten the gist of what it means and what it feels like to ride on a team. And she opted to do the 6, knowing her horse has a little bit of a shorter stride without letting it out of the box. And helped her get that oxer that's proven a little bit difficult as well.
Double verticals are jumping really nicely. I think it's nice having that come right out of the turn rather than a related distance.
And again, that back rail of that oxer is kind of proving a little bit tricky to ride. It's It's a bending 6 strides, and it's kind of coming off a blind turn. And it just looked like with a little bit of a shorter strided horse, she needed to go a little direct. But with the directness, they don't get to see the full jump itself, and it just misjudged the back rail. But that was too bad. That was a beautiful round.
So still on a best possible score of 12.51 for that team.
Yeah, exactly, and it doesn't put them out of contention at all. They'll rely a little bit on Luke to kind of keep that score down to that one fault from that first round. But again, we still have a full second round to go.
So returning to Canada for our next rider, Taylor Wood with New York's Joy. Turning on 6.09 faults. This team could finish round 1 on a 0 score, hoping that Sofia Popescu's score will be a drop. But that does add a little bit of pressure, knowing that your score ideally will not be a drop score.
Yeah, exactly. So she's riding hopefully for that clear round. And unfortunately for Sofia, what is seemingly just a small issue just is very costly in terms of points. So far, this is looking like a very solid round.
Really efficient back from 8 to 9.
Yeah, she's been very, very smooth up to the last, and that was beautiful.
Really quick too, 58.33 on the clock, but more importantly, gets the clear. So they're looking pretty good, hopefully going to be able to drop that score put in by Sofia Popescu. And Matilda Candel is the last to go, and she was the overnight leader. So hopefully she can continue that consistency and put in another clear round there for Canada, because they really are sitting in a promising position.
Yeah, exactly. And they have, great support. I see Captain Canada over there. I think that's maybe one of his and Amy's students. You have Jan Candel's daughter, who's been a prominent figure on the Canadian teams, senior teams, for a very long time. So, you're looking at a lot of senior team experience in that one younger team there. So they've got a lot of great mentors.
And one of the great things about this event, it kind of not only gathers obviously all the young riders, but a lot of the mentors as well. So they all step in to play the chef to keep role, and even training their individual students.
Exactly. And, I saw Diane Langer here and Krasinski. They're really kind of here and watching, possibly for that next talent, as they are in charge of those developing riders series and Nations Cups, sending young riders to Europe and getting the kind of more senior experience at the CSIO 3-star level. So, they want to kind of weave a really connected web and create a defined ladder of moving up in the ranks and how to do so, and it starts here.
We're watching now Addison Perrins, individual riding for Zone 6, and Rock of Cashel for Bethany Ann Perrins.
An unfortunate rail at the skinny, as well as a stop at the wall with the aqueduct underneath it. Just looked like the 4 got a little long maybe, and the horse just said maybe try again for a different distance. So we're coming back to that. And
She
no
gets it
problem.
right that time.
Going again into that corner I've been talking about, you want to pull on the reins thinking it's going to be delicate, it's careful, but the 4 really is not walking short at all. It's actually walking just nice.
And especially if any of them are a little backed off by that kind of questionable shape at the bottom. Just makes it a little bit longer. So finishing on 35 there. Just an individual, so not affecting any teams there, but surely will be a little disappointed with the way that shook out for her individual score.
Yeah, and again, she has the ability to come back in that second round, and smooth that out a little bit.
So we're a little over halfway through this round one. And they'll all come back and jump a second time. Pamela Mini Morataya up next, individual competing for Guatemala. She rides Joyful Power.
Looks like this is another individual. And again, it's nice to have Guatemala join us. We've seen some newer teams these past couple years, and that's great to add to kind of what we've been seeing, which is Mexico, Canada, and the U.S.
She carries forward a score of 6.89. So still within reach. But just looking to put in 2 very consistent rounds here today.
Exactly. She is definitely not out of contention. You know, that rail came down at 4A. It's a little bit costly.
That was a late fall there.
That was a little cheap. That was a late rail. And they are all kind of peeking at that 4-stride line, but she held the horse straight. Managed no issues there, but is carrying forward 8 faults so far.
Just unfortunate dismount there.
Just a little, wasn't sure, the horse wasn't quite sure exactly what distance she wanted, but she's up. The horse is trotting around, she's up. Everyone seems to be doing okay. We're just trying to corral. Yeah, she was just a little bit on the undecided about her 6 strides or the 7 strides, and the horse just tried to make the decision for her to leave in the 6, and I just didn't seem like that was the one that she was ready for.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and I mean, that line kind of beginning at 9, it's all so related. You really don't have any time to even make slight adjustments. You have to kind of go in knowing your plan and acting on it from the start. So.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, the higher you get, I mean, you know, the more minimal errors you can really make. And, you know, at least with the material these days is so light, anything can just lightly brush off a pole off the top. And especially with that vertical, you know, that being the plank is so delicate, and it's a very airy vertical, but came down super easy. There was no issue there.
So horse and rider both okay. That's all that really matters at the end of the day. Unfortunate elimination in this round for the rider from Guatemala. So that brings us back to Zone 10, who have been on quite a roll so far. 2 clear rounds recorded from the 2 riders that have gone so far. This is the 3rd rider, Scarlett Wallace, and Samurai, that also made it into the top 3 yesterday, returning on 0.59 faults. So they had quite a showing yesterday.
It's very impressive, especially as the 2 of the 3 that we are just currently talking about have continued to put zeros on the scoreboard.
In fact, even having a rail right now, obviously they don't want to, but even having a rail would hold on to their lead.
Yeah, they came in with actually a pretty significant lead, which gives them a huge leg up in this competition. Just jumping around nicely. It was a beautiful horse and rider combination. She just kind of fits in the 7 a little bit steady there, but pulls it out for a clear round.
Well, and that gives Zone 10 a clean sheet for round 1. Of course, we'll still see their 4th rider, Chloe Kwong, jump because she has to record her individual score. But with a drop score available and 3 clear rounds, that puts them on the clear. So nothing to add to their 1.83 penalties that they brought in to this round.
They're looking awfully good.
They really are. We'll see if the luck can stay the same going into round 2, because of course they all have to jump this track again, which is a tall order. That's a lot of jumping for these horses. So continuing right along. Taryn Keeley's turn for Zone 2. She's riding Hilton for Keeley Equestrian. And she had a pretty good round yesterday, 1.43 penalties coming forward. Zone 2 not in the most favorable position right now, but they did record a clear from Meyer Krishna.
Yeah, and again, the unfortunate part of having a 3-person team is that all your scores count. But it's still available for the individuals to snag a podium finish. It's not over yet.
Taryn moved up from the children's section last year, so this is not her first appearance here at this event. She knows a little bit what it's like to jump a championship.
And it's nice to see so many repeat customers coming back. Again, that back rail falls again.
Really different kind of material. In fact, I think that specific fence has been used in the hunters before. It's not typically in the jumper ring. It's a little dull.
Yeah, and it's, you know, the way he created that jump just with the gate at the bottom and just 2 poles on the top, it makes for a very airy fence, and the horses just stare at the bottom gate, and, you know, they might jump up, but they don't necessarily jump across. So I think, you know, with the riders looking at that and seeing where the faults are coming, you know, if I were telling my rider, I would just say, you know, make sure to leave a little bit of a room to ride up, get across that back rail, and then work out the 4.
Third line rider for Zone 4 up next. Another team that's recorded only clears so far. Christian Hacker has the task ahead of him next of adding another clear. He rides Sparks for CSH Equine.
Yeah, Zone 4 and Canada, you know, they're still in contention as well. You know, they're both on a score of 9 and change, so they're not completely out of podium, not at all.
Yeah, they're right up there. A time fault could change the fate of either one. So well within reach.
And so far, putting in a really solid, really nice round. Gets that 6 done early. They've probably watched a few, enough to know that the 6 does get very steady coming home. You know, we haven't seen many problems with the doubles of verticals, which is usually a very delicate fence, and cleared the 4 line that's been causing issues. So far, putting in a really solid round, making a decision 6 or 7 to this last, and up and over the last. Nice,
really good
solid
round
clear
there. And came in with a pretty good score, 2.01, so nothing to add to that. And we have another team finishing round 1. Well, technically not finished yet, but they will finish round 1 on a 0 score because they only have 1 rider left and they have 3 clears. So Amy Krebs, even though she came out strong with a very good performance yesterday, so odds are she will record another strong performance here today. Doesn't matter what she does, they will end up on the clear.
Yeah, so I think that gives them a little bit of breathing room, at least for their last rider. And going into the second round, they should feel pretty confident, or at least pretty good with their performances.
So you see our current leaderboard. Zone 10 has quite a lead there. 1.83. Canada and Zone 4 are neck and neck at 9.85 and 9.97. So we haven't seen a change up in the order from the, I guess, the order that they came in. There have been quite a few clear rounds jumped today, so that's fared well for everyone. Another rider for Zone 4, but not riding for the team. Philippa Aman comes in aboard Ballerine de Revel for Caroline Mowini. And a score of 1.21, so she's in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, exactly. Again, if you're within 1 rail, which 4 faults, then you're sitting pretty good. So And as I said that, she just has the skinny down. Just such a delicate fence. You touch it and it's probably going to come down. Really pushes for the 4. You know, again, that is not short. They kind of back off coming into that corner. It makes it almost a little bit long. And that was too bad because that was a beautiful round.
That was jumped really well. So just the single rail to add there brings her score up to 5.21 as an individual. This looks like just our one more individual than our final line riders. Sole representative in this pre-junior section from Mexico. This is Atena Santos, Fontainebleau BS. Actually have our first ever representatives from Mexico in the dressage portion of the North American Youth Championships. Those going on next door, the main hunter ring. They rode for team medals yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. As an individual, you know, again, we've talked about, but she is sitting actually quite nice for her individuals. 2.46. You know, that's definitely not a bad score to have. You know, you wouldn't want to add anything to that to really be in contention for your final day. And I know she has that in the back of her head.
It's got to be a good confidence booster to come out and jump great on day 1. Unfortunately, that gray ox there with the Liverpool comes down.
Yeah, it looks like she opted. She tried to do 5 to the 1 to the 5, and I think it was just a little bit too flat maybe for her horse. And then also has the front rail of that daunting gray oxer.
Yeah, both of the gray oxers have been a little challenging for different reasons.
Yeah, and again, you know, maybe you're thinking, you see all these people have the back rail, you're thinking right across, and you forget about the front rail. So it's kind of a catch-22.
So both of those gray oxers coming down there for Atena, the individual rider from Mexico. Total score of 8 there.
You know, it's always interesting when we start the class with a lot of clear rounds. You know, we're not particularly following that trend. We've definitely seen some rails come down here and there. The first 6 or so riders really kind of paved the way, and then now we've seen a few faults here and there. Little rideability errors, but
well, the top 25 riders looking to qualify for Sunday's or Saturday's individual final. And with 27 starters, it's going to be a close one to see who all makes it into that top 25. Luke Reinhardt in to anchor. Zones 1, 3, and 5. He rides Captain America. Score of 1.62 for this rider.
yeah, again, so he's sitting pretty well too. I believe he was maybe 8th yesterday. So that's not a bad position to have. He's anchoring zones 1, 3, 5. And, you know, they are sitting in contention. If he can kind of hold steady, they'll just drop the score from Malia.
Sitting in 4th place coming in to this competition, but really within 1 pole of both 2nd and 3rd place.
Exactly.
So they're not far by much, or they're not behind by much.
Yeah, it's getting a little bit tight in those 2nd, 3rd, 4th positions so far. A lot of pressures on him. You know, he does come from a riding family with his dad being very competitive. showing him the ropes. So he does come from a horse family.
He's really riding aggressively. This horse is getting just a little far off a few of these, but he's giving it the ride it needs to cover.
Oh.
Well, that's too bad.
No.
It was going so well.
Just looked like he went to go turn and didn't quite get the turn done in time. The horse was just kind of shying away from that right rein. Wasn't quite sure what he was asking him to do. That's such a shame. That was such a great round.
Yeah, that is unfortunate. I will say he kept it to a minimum. You know, having a refusal can sometimes mean catastrophe in terms of time faults.
Exactly.
But he really only accrued, what, 7 time faults? So 4 for the rail down, or the refusal. And then just a few to add there for time. So that will be the drop score for that round. So sitting on a total of 16.51.
And again, he has the ability to come back and correct that for the next round. All is not lost.
So final line rider for Canada now, and winner of the class yesterday. This is Matilda Candel Disco de Pleville. They came in and put in a very quick time. It just looked like some of those times weren't going to be caught, and then they ended up being 3rd or 4th. So they were all really fast in yesterday's first individual qualifier, hoping to take that top spot.
Yeah, again, Matilda's come from another riding family. You know, Jan again being the staple on the Canadian team for so many years. You know, Jen, his wife, she's always been so supportive, always been there. She's been around horses forever. And it's just such a great family affair.
Horse is backing off a little bit. I don't know if it's just the way that he goes.
Oh,
That's
another one.
unfortunate. And she's also thinking about being quick back to it. She's not going to waste any time.
Yep, gets it done. Yeah, yeah, the horse just looks like it's a little bit, you know, it's a careful horse, but it's a little bit extra careful today. Jumps got a little bit bigger. But, you know, she's been riding this height. She kind of knows what to do, how to guide this horse around.
Covers up that distance pretty well, a little deep into 9, but no trouble out through that line.
No, it's too bad. Finishes great.
That was unfortunate there. But again, kept it to minimal time faults. She circled back really quickly, so.
Like the same penalty.
Yeah,
actually.
exactly. Kind of the same story twice, but a different jump.
You know, it just goes to show you anything can happen. You know, winning the class one day to just having, you know, what would be kind of a minor issue, but accruing a lot of penalties for that. Now it just changes the game a little bit for Canada.
It does. They'll have 11 to add there to 9.85. So that brings us to the final rider for Zone 10, but their fate has already been decided. 3 clear rounds. So Chloe Kwong, of course, is going to want to get the clear for her personal score, but the pressure for her team is off. They're going to finish on 1.83.
Brings Zone 1, 3, and 5 a little bit closer to contention. So again, Chloe's score doesn't really matter to the team at this point, as they have jumped all 3 clear rounds so far. But this does, you know, it will affect her individual scoring.
And she's for sure hoping to move up. She was the drop score for that team coming into the competition, 7.45 faults.
Yeah, exactly. And what we've kind of seen here today were some like very unusual bobbles here, and especially at the fence coming up that she's just about to jump. So that also in itself kind of opens the door Same thing. The horse just studied that fence, gave a huge effort. She was a little bit unseated. Seems like she's gotten back in the tack though. That just cost her a few seconds around that corner. And again with the back rail with that oxer.
Yeah, it seems like it might be among the most common to come down on this course here today.
And so easy. I mean, they've all just touched it. Light material. The cups are very shallow. Quick release emergency cups, so yeah, it was too bad.
So just the rail down and a couple to add for time as well. Total of 7 there for Chloe and Kalea. Not going to impact their team's score as they finish on a 1.83, so very comfortable lead there for Zone 10. And 2 more teams to send in their final riders, one of which is also on the clean slate. But this one paints a slightly different story. Zone 2 only had 3 riders coming forward, so no drop score. And this rider faced an unfortunate elimination yesterday in the qualifier, so was allowed to continue, but like we said earlier, quite a few penalties were added to their team score. So 38.2 was the score coming in. They've already had 1 rail down, so that's now 42.2.
Yeah, and unfortunately that probably does put them out of contention for a podium finish. You know, so she's really going in to, you know, solidify her partnership again, going in to just produce a solid round, especially for herself, for her horse.
I believe this rider took a top finish in the children's section last year. She was among the top placers. Different horse. She's been partnered with this one just since this year.
And she handled the 6 easy.
I think it's a very strong partnership. They did the Zone Jumper Team Championships and I think won the first individual qualifier there.
And you know, it is unfortunate when something like that happens the first day. You know, but I think the most important part is to keep pushing through, try to finish strong, and come back for next year.
Well, a pretty strong performance. A good comeback there for Ryland Conway and Escada. Just the 1 rail down.
Yeah,
So-
that was extremely strong, especially, you know, coming off of a hard day yesterday, and it's, you know, mentally very tough as well. But that was a very solid performance. I hope she's happy with that because that was on par for what she has been doing.
Zone 2 is going to finish on a total of 46.2. And that brings us to our final rider. This is Amy Krebs for Zone 4 aboard Jabantos. Another top finish for her, 0.88 penalties. So she is sitting in a very favorable position, as is her team, because they jumped 3 clear rounds in this first round of team competition. So they will finish on 9.97 regardless of the score that Amy records, but of course wanting to jump a clear for herself to stay in top contention.
Yeah, so they're looking pretty solid, at least after the first round, to sit in 2nd place, I believe. So again, her score does not count, only just for herself. Hopefully that should be a little bit of pressure off herself. A little light rub at 4A, but it stays up. She has to think just a little bit about time allowed.
Yeah, you can see her kind of thinking about it, landing off of that oxer at 5, knowing it's time to get going.
Clears the tricky oxer and the tricky 4. Opts for the steady 7. Gets that done.
Time should be okay.
Yep, pushes up for the 5 and clear.
And that's exactly what she wanted there. So Zone 4, very impressive outing. All 4 jumped clear. So very strong showing from Zone 4 in general today. They took the gold medal just earlier this morning in the children's section, and now chasing the gold medal in the pre-juniors. They're still a ways off of the leaders. Zone 10 finishes on 1.83 faults, whereas there you see the final results for Zone 4, 9.97. So they sit in second place, pretty comfortable second place. There you see our final leaderboard. They have about a rail in hand that puts them ahead of Zones 1, 3, and 5, who sit in third. So Zone 10 are really the ones to watch here today. Zone 4 could sneak up on them. It all depends on what happens in this second round, because really only 2 rails divide first and second. But we'll see how the rest of this class shakes out. It was some really good jumping out there, a lot of clear rounds.
Yeah, exactly. And especially it's always interesting to see them at the front of the class and kind of in the middle of the class, have a few rails here and there. And really it kind of came down to fence number 5. A lot of tricky situations that were a little bit unexpected. So that, I think that kind of threw this whole game into another tailspin of who's going to come out on top. That's the whole sport. I mean, that's why you have the 4 riders. You can have a drop score, but again, it's anyone's game. I think that's proven today.
We'll find out exactly whose game it's going to be with one more round of jumping set to take place in about 15 minutes time. We're going to drag the ring and reset this course so that the riders can give it one more try to fix a few of the mistakes that were made, and for those that didn't make any mistakes, try and keep up that consistency and hopefully clock a second clear round. So we'll be back shortly with the second round of this team competition for the NAYC pre-junior section.
U.S. Equestrian. Thousands of equestrians have united
to watch, to learn,
to experience,
to compete. In the pursuit of fairness, safety, welfare, and joy.
From the grassroots to the Olympic Games.
Each with personal goals, but all united together for the joy of horse sports.
Ride united. Ride with U.S. Equestrian.
Normal. Nice. You can roll with that. Or you can roll the dice. Be the brave and boldly go a different way. A different wave. It's the risk taken by the gamers, chasing the glimmers. We're the risk takers, the loud laughers, the grand Traverse Bay late night swimmers. It's about the destination. It's about the way. And at Turtle Creek Casino in Traverse City, life is a game. And this is how we play.
With NetJets, travel will always be personal. We do everything it takes to make every flight exceptional. Every single detail of your experience is personalized, just for you. As our standard is not just to meet our definition of perfection, it's to exceed yours.
Whenever you shop Meijer, you shop for more than yourself. You help support sustainability in all our communities.
Thank you.
Today, tomorrow, and for years to come.
What makes good footing? More importantly, what makes safe footing? Is it the dimensions, the foundation, or the irrigation? What if we told you good footing is not a single aspect, rather the entire process, from the design and intended use to which arena builder you choose? With GGT footing, it's not just the most trusted arena additive in the world, but the experience and knowledge to ensure your footing is safe.
FEI really takes a different approach to product development and to the materials that we use in our products. We're always looking outside to see what the sports world and medical worlds are doing, and we apply that to the equine athlete. We love horses, so that's just what really fuels us to do what we do.
We fly horses anywhere around the world, whether it is a hobby horse or it's an Olympic champion. It's about getting an animal from point A to point B safely, in best of health, and in the quickest possible of time. We understand the business better than anybody else. We do not leave any stone unturned, and we are staffed by horse people from every layer of the company. We give horses wings around the world, across the globe, or across the street.
As a third-generation insurance agency owner, I don't underestimate the responsibility that we have in protecting our clients.
At Fitzpatrick Insurance, it's all about the relationships. The stronger the relationship we have with our clients, the better we can anticipate their needs.
As an independent insurance agency, we partner with top-rated carriers such as Auto Owners Insurance.
This allows us to craft a comprehensive solution tailored to each client.
If you're looking to go out, go up, to get up and go, whatever you're looking for, you and anyone you bring with you will find it all and more at the Grand Traverse Resort and Spa. Get up and go.
Do something different, just to see what happens. Make a plan, but go where the night takes you. Leelanau is a place that feels like home. That is home, after all. And after the work is done, the lights are on, its doors are open. Possibilities, if you're open, to what happens next, to a game. Friends play here. Leelanau Sands Casino.
2023 will be the 14th running of the Silver Oak Jumper Tournament. A 501c3 charity, from its founding, our mission has always been twofold. First, to provide a jumper show format where horses and riders are celebrated, with all the unique care imaginable. Second, our efforts have become inextricably intertwined with the Kevin Babington Foundation. If you think about it for a minute, it's so logical. If we are to promote and celebrate the sport's athletes at their peak, how could we be less invested in supporting those living their worst nightmares, recovering from spinal cord injuries, and this, the world's most beautiful sport? Together with our partners, the Morrissey Management Group, and the spectacular venue that is, in fact, Traverse City, we will collectively aspire to serve both objectives. So mark your show calendars and join us September 6th through the 10th. And for those who can't make it, you can be treated to the live streams from the Traverse City website on Horse Show Live. In the meantime, to Kevin, Kim, David, Alexis, and Jonathan Miller, know we will continue to be there for you. Please visit us at kevinbabingtonfoundation.org.
Well, at the halfway point of this NAYC pre-junior team competition, we saw some stellar jumping come out of these pre-junior competitors, 27 of them to be specific, all returning to jump a second time to take potential top honors in the team portion of the pre-junior section. But it is Zone 10 who ran away with the lead at the halfway point. They marked a completely clear sheet with their one drop score, finishing on just 1.83 penalties. So they have a significant lead at Zone 4 in second on 9.97 penalties. And Zones 1, 3, and 5 take third, the halfway point, with 16.51 penalties. But the fate of these teams could easily change. They're all within a couple of rails of one another. So we'll see how this second round shakes out. And excited once again to be joined by Allie Wolf.
Yeah, it's nice to be here, and we're starting off, I think, with the one person who ended up having a little fall at the second to last fence in the previous round, but she's already starting off solid. And again, it was just a miscommunication, nothing major, nothing serious, and it just seems like they're back on the same page again.
Competing as an individual for Guatemala, Pamela Mini Morataya and Rifle Power. So I do believe in this format, if you do have a fall and an elimination, I think we said earlier it adds about 20 penalties to your score, but you are allowed to carry on. Maybe not into the final day, seeing as the individual final still has yet to happen.
Yeah, I think they take maybe 15 horses and riders into that final day of competition. And just like you said, with the elimination, it doesn't mean that she can't jump again. It just means that the score is just going to be a little bit different. They take the person with the most faults in that round, and then they add, I think, about 20 more penalties to that. So it is a severe penalty, but I mean, she just proved that mistakes happen, but she comes back fighting, and with one time fault, I mean, that's pretty significant.
What a way to rally there. It is nice that they do let you come back and redeem yourself, especially in this specific instance. She had an unfortunate fall in the first round, and how many times do you get to come back and redeem yourself like that? You get to try the exact same thing and get it right, which she just did. So big accomplishment there for that rider.
Or how many times do we wish that we could go in and do that again?
Exactly.
So many times. So this is a nice way to be able to go in and accomplish that.
So we have our individuals and alternates going first in this returning order. So another individual, Addison Perrins, riding for Zone 6 with Rock of Cashel. We had a few that ran into trouble. Some refusals on course that led to significant time faults. So the score really doesn't mirror exactly what the mistake was. I don't think this is Addison, actually. Moving on to Jackson Romrell. Another one that did have an unfortunate refusal. So really looking to redeem himself here. But again, I think, if I'm not mistaken, his refusal was at that gray oxer at fence 5 that kind of proved to take some of the horses by surprise. So coming to it for the second time, that element of surprise at least hopefully should be gone.
Yeah, exactly. I think that took us by surprise as well. He went and just showed his horse that oxer, but half of the ones that had an issue there, maybe wasn't so much about the spook of the Liverpool underneath itself. It was just about the manageability of the stride. He did get a little bit of a wind up there and got over it, no issues.
So nice to be able to redeem himself and get through that perfectly fine.
Yeah, exactly. And so when he has to ride that strong to an oxer, now he just has to really pull it together for the last half, put the horse's brain back together essentially. And hold his hand a little bit the rest of the way. But he got over the hard part. I believe that was kind of his only issue on course in the previous round, with just obviously a lot of time faults circling back to it.
He might run a little tight on time this time around, but I think all in all, if he can keep all the jumps up, this will be a very successful round. Yeah, so ever so slightly over that time allowed of 64 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. And the same thing as the girl previous, they go in and prove to themselves. It's just, a simple miscommunication. Okay, it leads to a lot of penalties, but at the end of the day, it just boils down to one little miscommunication, and that just can upset the entire course. But, clearly they're right back on the same page.
The alternate for Zone 10, Valentina Lehner and Cookie Dough. Return. I believe they had 3 rails down, so 12 faults to add to their score yesterday of 5.03. So again, just maybe a few more spots on the course where she'd like to improve her score. Definitely not out of reach. It was little minor things that happened at 3 separate spots.
Yeah, and to me, it just seemed a little bit more on the rideability, you know, just smoothing it out. You know, I think she may have had that last time too, but just got a little bit deep there. There were just a few spots where she was just a little bit quick and slow, and you know, that kind of catches up to you at the end of the course, which happened to her earlier. So just trying to keep it as smooth and consistent as possible. And the skinny is always so hard to jump regardless. She got a lot of power out at 10B.
Coming together really nicely. I think improving upon her score. There we go, within the time allowed. So just the 4 to add there. I think overall, I mean, she was called out by one of the trickiest spots on the course, so I think she improved almost everything, and really that could be chalked up to bad luck.
Yeah, exactly. That was a lot smoother than the previous round. You know, going in your first round, you're nervous, your nerves take over. You might not be as smooth as possible just because you want to be getting everything done. You want to get your half halts done. You want to get your going strides done. So it might not be as smooth as possible. And I think she was just able to take a breath after her first round, knowing that she's done the course, seen what the questions were, and then was able to kind of just take a breath, go back in, and just smooth it out a little.
Sole rider for Mexico had 2 rails in the first round, Atena Santos and Fontainebleau at BS. So carrying a score of 10.46. These individual riders, I believe, showing in reverse order of merit before we get into our team competitors.
Yeah, exactly. She came into this day on a great score. Unfortunately had to add 2 rails down, a total of 8 penalties to the already 2.46. You know, so I think she's just looking to kind of keep that as her score leaving today and going into that final if she can get in. And already she's putting in just a really nice round.
This does look it's smooth and consistent. She hasn't been too close or too far away from anything.
Exactly. I think this is the biggest test on the course.
Seems to have really just found her rhythm there. That was an absolutely beautifully executed round and improved upon her score. So clean sheet there. Keeps her score to 10.46.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see at the end of the class to see if that's enough to get her into that final round. But, you know, she did her homework for coming into the second round, and she pulled out a great clear round.
So rider for Canada, competing individually, Sloan Betker with Ken Bear. Just 1 rail down in round 1 and a pretty solid score of 2.86 coming in to today's competition. So still within reach, 6.86 penalties.
Yeah, and again, having a great first round just with the 1 down. You know, there's not really much that you can improve upon. Maybe you can go back to your video and just see if you're a little too deep, a little too long to that distance, but also take into account you still have to jump the rest of the course. So really trying to keep the consistency that they had in the first round, and just minor tweaks. Little deep and slow to that skinny, got away with it, had to stretch for the back rail of 4A, and that just caught up to him. To her.
Yeah, it looks like just a little snug coming in at 3, which, you know, you don't want to hit that at too forward of a pace because obviously a very careful vertical, but ultimately pay the price getting a little too quiet to it.
Exactly, and just what Nick kind of designed on the course, you know, if you maybe mess up a little bit on a distance coming into one line, it might affect your outcome coming out of another line. So everything is a little bit connected. So, you know, your smoothest course will be your best.
I think as we just saw from the last round jumped, that was her best round, and it was about as smooth as could be. So just one little hiccup there ticks over the time as well. So 4 for jumping and 2 for time there for Sloane Betker for Canada. So just about doubles her score coming in.
Yeah, and this is just where you start to see a change up in, you know, thinking about individual finals, especially with those reserves or alternates. You know, you start to kind of see a little change up going on that second round. Someone who was way ahead of you, I mean, could easily just have 2 down, and all of a sudden you see yourself moving up 5 spots. So anything is possible. You know, the best you can do is kind of keep those consistently low rounds. And, you know, that makes it easier for people like Atina to kind of slide up their rankings.
So we just have 2 individual competitors left to go before we get into our team competitors that will decide the medals for today. We've already had one podium celebration today. Zone 4 took the gold medal finish in the children's team competition. And Zone 4 is really in contention here for the win today. They still have a little bit of a margin separating them from Zone 10, who currently has the lead. But time will tell how the rest of that shakes out. Sydney Levy up next, rider for Jamaica, individually competing aboard her ride Ortega de Fer. And I think we saw her put in another really good round. Just 4 faults, an unlucky rail came down for her.
Yeah, exactly. I think she stood off number 9 a little bit, had the back rail down. You know, the rest was great. So I think if I were her, thinking, you know, coming through those corners a little bit more, smoothing out the hand around the corners to keep the horse flowing. And that's about it. The rest was great. And there she's making up a little bit of time.
Quick around this turn.
Got a little bit of a similar distance, but this time was much more forward going into it, and the horse had no problem clearing. She's definitely riding way more forward through the corners, and that's also showing through her time as well.
Really quick time there, and more importantly, the clear. So stays on 6.69 penalties. Our sole rider for Jamaica.
That puts her in a good contention, actually, for the individuals as well.
Our final individual competitor, 8 in total. Philippa Amon, a Zone 4 rider, actually, but not competing for the team. She's just part of that Zone 4 contingent and riding as an alternate. Ballerine de Revel is the ride. She came in on a very good score of 1.21, just had 1 rail to add to that. So 5.21 is her score coming into round 2.
Yeah, and if she can keep that score, she's going to be sitting in a really great position heading into the individuals. And this horse has a bit of a shorter stride, so she's going to really try and think about continuing down those lines to get going, get into those lines.
Just another to get called out by that skinny at 3.
Yeah, I think she maybe thought about getting into the 5 a little bit early. You know, she kind of was pushing still at fence number 3, that very, very delicate vertical there, and just caught up with her.
Keeping up a pretty good pace.
That was too bad. That was a beautiful round.
That was beautiful. Yeah, just a little unlucky there, as quite a few have been already at fence 3.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if fence 3 kind of plays more of a factor in this second round. You know, it was somewhat manageable to jump in the first round. People might take it more for granted, though, in the second round. So it'll be interesting to see, you know, which jumps start to play a factor in the second round. Are they different from the first? Everybody's kind of seemed to get a grasp on how to ride from 4AB to 5. Fence 5 was that difficult fence in the beginning, so it doesn't seem to be proving difficult now.
Yeah, I think all these horses have had a chance to study it a little bit. The ones that jumped it with no problem probably will return to jump it with no problem, and the ones that did have a problem with it got to see it twice in the first round. So maybe got a chance to look at it and think, oh, it's really no big deal. So just a little pause now before we get into our first of the team riders. Looks like everyone's just finishing warming up, and there we have our team standings right now. Zone 1 leads the way with quite some margin, 1.83 faults. They didn't add anything after all of their riders had jumped in the first round. And Zone 4 sits kind of relatively closely behind, 9.97, so still within reach there. They're within 2 rails of the lead, Zone 1, 3, and 5. Just a hair behind them as well. So I think we could, you know, if all shakes out well, we could kind of predict how this is going to shake out, but this is show jumping, so I don't think we can accurately predict that. Who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, yeah, and just like in that first round, I mean, nobody could have really predicted the trouble fence number 5 could have caused, so who knows, that could still be a factor somewhere else in this course for that second round. You know, somebody that's within 2 rails of that first place sitting gold contention medal winners right now. You know, just 2 rails could be as costly as that, or a little hiccup somewhere else, or some time faults. I mean, that all comes into play.
Wind's starting to pick up a little bit here in Traverse City. We have a nearby storm that probably is not going to impact us, but starting to feel some of the winds coming from that. But otherwise, it's a beautiful day here, as to be expected. 70-ish degrees.
Yeah, we've been very lucky with the weather. We've had a few crazy storms roll through here, but nothing like 2 years ago, I think during the same week. Took out the judges' stands for the dressage. So, so far we've had a beautiful day.
Well, here we go with the first of the team riders. We have 5 teams vying for top honors here in round 2 of the team competition. Trying to put their best foot forward to finish strong and hopefully take a podium finish. Canada is going to kick things off. Livia Martin, the leadoff rider with Karate. And they recorded a clear in round 1, so nothing to add to their individual score of 3.76. And Canada in general finished on a total of 20.85.
Yeah, again, they had a great first round. Now the pressure's on to just reiterate that, stay the same. Sometimes the pressure for that is almost a little bit more than if you, say, had a rail coming out of that first round going into the second round. You know, kind of changes up the mental game. You're fighting for something versus here, you know, she's just trying to maintain.
Exactly, and I mean, I'm sure it's hard to follow up perfection if you really can't pick apart the course too much. And I mean, surely these riders are working with their trainers, and you know, many top professionals know that there's really no such thing as a perfect ride. Even when you jump clear, you might win and still be a little dissatisfied with a few of the spots on the course that you can go back and finesse.
Yeah, exactly. And she actually ended up doing the 5 to the 1 to 5, so she actually left out a stride where others did the short 6. So she might be thinking a little bit time allowed, or you know, maybe that would be the smoothest track for her horse. I think she got a very lucky touch on the last 2 fences, but pulled it out.
So it's a double clear there today for Livia and Karate. So really strong partnership there. I believe their second time here at this event. Maybe their third, at least their second time.
Yeah, and the order in which, you know, the chefs put their riders, you know, is also determined by their experience and their comfort level with this. So, you know, you'll typically see the strongest riders of the team anchoring the final position. And usually those same strong riders could also be at the front of the pack starting off the entire team. Because, you know, there is that vibe of the team. If you put in a solid, clear first round as the first to go on your team, you know, that could carry through to the rest of your teammates.
Campbell Hudkins next to go with Firefly AS, the ride for Stonehenge Stables. Leadoff rider for the combined team for zones 1, 3, and 5. She had just a time fault. She was the very first to go, so she didn't really have a grasp of how tight the time would be. So now she knows, and we can see how she's going to kind of make that up. It was barely a time fault. I mean, just slightly over. So it's not like she has to do anything drastic anywhere on the course.
Yeah, exactly. She just can't pull anywhere. You know, if I were her, I'd probably try 1 or 2 corners to really focus on making it up. That way you don't have to stress about it at the end of the course. You know, like here's a good time saver. She needs to go. Keep going, keep going. Opts for the short 7.
I think should be within this time.
Looks good.
Yeah, a little bit of time to spare there. Campbell Hudkins gets that clear with Firefly. Partnership that's really come together well over the past couple of years. So keeping the score to just 16.51 at this point. Gabriella Curry up next. Recorded a clear for Zone 4. One of 4 clears, actually. So all of the Zone 4 riders came out to play here today, keeping their score to 9.97. So Gabriella hoping to be the first of several double clears.
Exactly, and all eyes are on Zone 4 and Zone 10. So, you know, the pressure is definitely doubled for them, especially when they have that clear already under their belts. Got a nice bold one into the double. And steadies up nice the Liverpool Oxer. Got a light rub into the A of the verticals. And she's definitely thinking about the time.
Yeah, and a really technical ride as well. Kind of meeting these jumps exactly where she has to.
Opts to stay out and square up the 7 and just touches the plank and it comes down.
That was unfortunate. Just a very light touch there. So brings her personal score up to 11.08, and hoping that the rest of the team can pull through, because that would bring their score up if that 4 faults has to count.
Yeah, exactly. In the first round we saw a lot of 6s and 7s going to that plank. You know, I think you have to decide between the trainer and your horse what's best for your horse. You know, some opted to stay out, square it up, get a little bit slow to that delicate plank, and others opt to just keep continuing their canter to that plank. So, you know, it's really horse and rider dependent.
So first rider actually for the leading team. Zone 10 brings forth Juna Lauder as their leadoff rider, new star Vanda Bergehova. And she's in a very promising position heading into the individual final. If she can keep all rails intact, she will certainly be one of the ones to watch. But I think her bigger concern right now is jumping clear for her team.
Yeah, exactly. She's, I mean, within 1 point of the leader from yesterday. So she's sitting in a very, very good position. You know, she's pretty quick around the corner, so she doesn't really have to think about time. Goes a little bit for that 4. Adds in a little bit of a late stride and has to push for the next 4 to the 1, but gets it done.
Her reaction time was really good there.
Yep.
Oh.
Maybe just caught up with her a little bit at that plank. Unfortunately, that comes down.
So the fate of both the teams that came home on a clear slate is looking a little different this time around.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's anyone's ball game right now, especially we've only seen the first competitor of each team. And those double clear rounds are going to be a little bit, I think, harder to be found than we maybe originally thought.
Myra Krishna up next for Zone 2, and Fanatic D'Alfie.
And, you know, while they might be out of contention for a podium finish, looking individually, she's looking quite good. She took a clear round earlier and came in with 3.53 penalties. So, you know, if she can kind of have a repeat of that first round, she's going to be, I think, in strong contention for that final day.
Exactly. It gives her a good reason to keep on fighting. And at the end of the day, even for the team competition, it might seem like they'd be out of contention, but it's a good reason to keep on putting your best foot forward. You never know what could happen.
Exactly. We've seen crazier things happen, so. She looks like she has a great partnership with this horse. She's really putting it in really good positions for him to jump nice and clear. Just making it look easy. And gets it done.
That was a really nice round. Well timed. A little bit of time to spare there. So that's setting her up really nicely for that team final. 3.53 penalties was the score she came in on, and she keeps it to just that.
Yeah, that she just made that course look so effortless.
There you see the Zone 2 result. Just at this point, best possible score of 46.2. We return to Canada, and this rider had just a slight mishap, had to circle and add some time faults to her score. So I think it'll hopefully be an easy fix for her. She can redeem herself. Sophia Popescu aboard Giandra.
Yeah, and besides that, she had a great round, so she knows she can do it, and she finished strong. you know, the test will be this line. He's already getting him back early. No problem. You know, especially for horses that might be a little bit spookier, possibly a little bit like this horse, going around the second time is just a little bit more comforting for them as they've seen these courses already. They've seen the fence. They kind of know what to expect. They can kind of take a breath, relax a little bit in their body, and it just allows the rider to kind of help them out a little bit more.
She stayed out a little wide to 9. We'll see how that impacts her time. It might run a little close here, 64 seconds, the time allowed.
Yeah, I think she'll just pick up a time fault there.
Yeah, 1 on the dot, 65 seconds even. So really improved upon her last score just with that simple fix.
Yeah, exactly. It was just one simple fix. The rest of the round was gorgeous. You know, coming back from something like that, from that many penalties, you know, if you didn't watch the class, you see that many penalties, you think it's a big deal. But, you know, watching the class, watching her ride the course earlier, it was just one little mistake. And, you know, that'll probably, you know, prevent her from going to that final round. But at least if she ends her weekend with that ride, that she should be very happy about.
Riley McKesson up next. Riding for the team from zones 1, 3, and 5, Armstrong de Moyon. Already a clear round recorded by their first line rider, Campbell Hudkins. So it's nice to know you're going in following a clear.
Ooh.
That's about as lucky as a rub can get at that fence.
Gets a really lucky rub at fence 3, which has proved to be fateful for a lot of people, but gets away with it. Hopefully she can carry that rub throughout the course, or that luck.
Double verticals has been very dependable for everyone.
Exactly.
It's not always the case. I think a lot of Grand Prix riders might see a double verticals and shudder a little bit.
Yeah, and especially with the yellow color, you know, they've done studies to show that yellow is the most knocked over color pole.
Really?
For horses, yep.
That's so interesting. Yeah, I know they definitely don't perceive color the way that we do.
An extra pole at the skinny, and she just sneaks under the time.
Perfectly timed there. So that's the second clear recorded for zone 1, 3, and 5. So they're looking in great shape. Just one more of those, and they would keep their score at a 16.51.
Yeah, they could come right back up into it. You know, they're not completely out of the question.
They came in to round 2 sitting in a 3rd. I believe they were in 4th, coming in around 1. So they've already improved their position and looking to continue to do so if possible. Suzette Tittle and Bull Runs Valor next to go for zone 4. They were clear in round 1. And already a score of 4 recorded for the team in round 2.
Yeah, things are shaping up to be a little bit different this time around. All the ones that produced only clear rounds have each had a rail in hand, and some of the teams that had a few extra rails are kind of showing their strength, so this could be anyone's game at this point. So again, with a horse like this, the slower, kind of bigger jumpers, you know, need to think a little bit of that time allowed. And she did a great job in the first round of managing that. Just a delicate, light touch on 4B, comes down. Gets a rub on fence 5, but it stays up. And same thing, a rub on B of the double of verticals, but nicely stays up. And just like we said earlier, you know, these horses have jumped this round again. This is their third time jumping. They're a little bit tired. They've seen what they're going to be doing. You know, they know what to expect around the corner. They know which way they're going to turn. So they're going to maybe start falling in a little bit or getting a little bit dull or numb to some of these colors of the fences, and has the last one down as well.
Yeah, that's not one we've seen come down much. I think kind of what you were saying there. This one maybe had gotten a little tired. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, she jumped a great first round. You know, the second round was still great, just maybe a little bit more casual. I think that's one of the only other times that we've seen 4B come down as well. So we're definitely seeing a few different fences come down.
So that means the 4 is going to have to count for Gabriella Curry. So their score will increase just by the 4. And we return to zone 10. Lauren Franson next to go with Golda. A really competitive score for this rider. I believe she was second yesterday in the qualifier. 0.28, nothing to add from round 1 today. And already a score of 4 recorded for zone 10 in the second round. So hoping to get 3 clears in the back half of this order to keep their score to 1.83. They do have 1 rail in hand, though. Next closest score. Actually, they might have 2 rails in hand now, because zone 4 is now on a score of 13.97.
Yeah, so they have a few rails in hand, but again, you know, anything could happen. They've already had their first rider have 1 down. This is looking like a strong combination. They had a great performance yesterday, looking to continue that. But again, all eyes are on this team. That's extra pressure on zone 10 to really perform. And so far, managing the pressure gracefully. Stuffs in the 5. I don't know if that was the original plan, but gets away with it. Having a lot of help from the audience.
Well, she pulls it out. 61 seconds even. Few moments there where it was looking a little touch and go, but overall pulled it out. Rode really strong to get that done. And keeps herself and her team in the running.
Yeah, exactly. You know, she dug in. She maybe didn't get some of the fences that she wanted at the correct distance or feel, but she stuck it in and she fought for it.
Taryn Keeley next to go for zone 2 aboard Hilton. Had just 1 down in the first round to add to her score of 1.43 coming in from yesterday.
Yeah, she's sitting pretty well for that individual final, perhaps, as well, as long as she can kind of keep it together this second round.
Teammate Myra Krishna recorded a double clear round already. So that should have the team in higher spirits.
Yeah, exactly. And that goes a long way with that team feeling, team camaraderie. You know, how one person on your team really does affect you. Got away with a little rub at that brown vertical, the out of the 4. Really pushes for number 9. Light rub at that last fence, but gets away with it.
Quick round too, so sub 60 seconds. Taryn Keeley records a clear for herself. Second clear now for zone 2, so it's looking like this round could be the best that they've had so far.
Yeah, exactly. And okay, they came in unfortunately with quite a high number, but you know, they're definitely rallying as a team of 3. That's extremely important. And she's going to just stay on the 1.43 individually, so I think she's going to be pretty comfortably looking into that individual final.
Back to Canada for our next rider, Taylor Wood with New York's Joy. Jumped a clear already here today. And so far a clear and 1 time penalty from round 2 from her team.
Yeah, they're also pulling it together. You know, they had all great rounds. Little bobble maybe with Sophia, but she already proved that she can pull it together for that one-time fault.
And unfortunately, the skinny coming down for her. Took a bit of a big shot at it. And just got a little too low over it.
Having a few light touches here and there. I think the horses may be getting just a little bit tired. He's already jumped so many efforts.
Ooh, hold on. Good save there.
That was good.
So that's not exactly how she would have wanted the last line to go, but she's going to rev back up and try that again.
Yeah, I think she just maybe didn't really decide on a definite distance or a number that she wanted to that one. Kind of pulled a little bit too much to no distance, and the horse got a little confused, but came right back around, no problem.
A score of 22. Hopefully that can be their drop score. Matilda Kendall, the last one to go for that team. There you see best possible score of 21.85. Sitting in 4th place at this point. So back to zone 1, 3, and 5. Malia Radcliffe next to go with Emma Lee for the CNC group. They had just one down in round 1. So seems an easy enough fix.
Yeah, exactly. Except you just still have to jump all the other fences.
Exactly. Not let anything else sneak up on you.
I think if I'm not mistaken, they had the back rail of that oxer. That's not proving any issues this time around. You know, again, this horse has a smaller stride. I think she opted to do the 6 to the 1 from 3 to 4 AB. We'll see if she does that again. Does need to think a little tiny bit about the time allowed around those corners. And here comes the first tricky question. This time she decides to do the 5 and just runs a little bit into the front rail.
First 2 riders for this team came out strong in round 2, so they have 2 clears already recorded. So this could be the drop score if Luke Reinhardt can come back in and get that clear.
Exactly, and she had no issues with the oxer that she had the back rail with in that first round. And pulls another rail at 10A. With otherwise a very nice round.
It's just an 8 to add there. Potentially could be the drop score for zone 1, 3, and 5. So still best possible score of 16.5, 16.51.
Exactly, and Luke had the same mistake at that Liverpool oxer that many others seem to also fall victim to, so I think he knows how to easily correct that one.
Christian Hacker and Sparks next to go for zone 4, and their tables have turned slightly. Christian coming in on a clear, as were all his other teammates, and he had a good individual score as well of 2.01, so nothing to add there from round 1. But round 2 has told a bit of a different story so far, a 4 and an 8. And another rail comes down for them.
This is definitely shaping up to be a different story for zone 4.
Hopefully he can keep it to the 4.
Yeah, we'll have to kind of go back to the drawing board of calculations and start to look at this in a little bit of a different light. You know, some of those other teams are sneaking up there.
So kept it together nicely through the rest of the course. Just the 4 to add. So I believe that puts them on a best possible score of 17.97. So they still sit in third. 2 4s to add so far to that completely clean sheet from round 1.
Yep, and I think it's a matter of whether Canada can kind of drop that score of 22 and see where zone 1, 3, and 5 is going to take us as well.
So that brings us back to zone 10, Scarlett Wallace and Samurai. They do have a pretty comfortable lead right now. The 1 rail from Juno Lauder could be the drop score if the remaining 2 riders can jump clear.
You know, I think it really comes down first and foremost to this rider. If this rider can produce a clear round, then they've got it. I think she actually has maybe another rail or 2 in hand that she's allotted.
Looks like the next best time is 16, or the next best score is 16.51. And they're still potentially on the 1.83, so they actually might have this in the bag even with 8 faults in this round.
Yep.
Maybe not with 8 faults. Well, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I think she just sealed it for them.
Well done there. Well, and that takes the pressure off of the final rider as well, because she has yet to jump a clear round, and that could be a lot of pressure.
Exactly.
And Scarlett Wallace looks like she could be in top contention coming into the final day. 0.59 coming into today, and then a double clear recorded today, so nothing to add there for her. And that leaves zone 10 on the 1.83 score, which is very impressive.
Yeah, extremely impressive, and already I think 2 of those teammates, maybe 3, are already looking to sneak into those individual finals. So that's a very, very strong team.
Final rider for zone 2, Rylan Conway and Escada. And a little mishap on day 1 that led to elimination, and then round 1 of this competition went quite nicely for them, just 1 rail down. And it's been quite a turnaround for zone 2. They've recorded 2 clears already. So it shows their mental toughness as a team, really rallying.
They really rallied. It's very impressive. A little deep to the skinny, but jumps it well.
You can tell how many times the skinny has come down because of how dusty the top rail is.
It's seen a lot of sand.
Yeah, could use a little rag out there.
Got a little touch at A at the double of verticals, but again, so far those double of verticals have not really proved an issue. And a little rub at that brown vertical as well, but gets away. Ooh, gets away with that. That was unbelievable. Keep going.
What a trier of a horse there.
Yeah.
Looked like lost a shoe in the process, so didn't quite have it in the tank there.
Yeah, didn't quite get the distance she wanted at number 9, but got away with it. But then that just created a very, very long 4 to that double, and just kind of caught up with her there. And was able to finish the course.
So they did rally there. Not really the way that she would have wanted it to end there, but just shows That horse has a heart of gold. And the rider is really tough as well. So that brings the Zone 2 team to a close, and it leaves just our final riders for the rest of the teams. So they finish on 83.2. Luke Reinhardt anchoring Zone 1, 3, and 5, who seem to really have a chance now. 16.51 is currently in second place. So the pressure is on Luke here.
Yeah, exactly. If they can drop Malia's score, then they're looking pretty strong.
Well, if I remember correctly, he did jump clear over the jumps, just had a little mishap at that. Really careful plank, didn't quite meet that the way he needed to and had to circle.
Exactly.
So he knows exactly what he has to fix.
It's a little deep to the skinny, gets away with it, has to ride strong into the double. Gets the 6 done a little bit early and gets away with that. That was great riding. Really needs to focus on this Oxford getting across, and the horse just didn't get its eye on it as quick as he thought it would and just misjudged that back rail. Adds a stride in that last line, gets a nice rub at 12, but gets away with it.
So just the one rail down there, 4 to add. So they finish on a total of 20.51. Drop that. 8 score from Malia Radcliffe. Zone 4, final rider Amy Krebs with Jabantos, and another top competitor.
You know, they still have a shot at silver or bronze, depending on how her score comes out.
It's been a totally different story here for Zone 4 in the second round. All 4 riders jumped clear in round 1. We now have a 4, an 8, and a 4 recorded.
She's also sitting with less than 1 fault from a gold medal individual placing. Gets the 6 done early. Goes for that time. Gets a rub at the oxer, but it stays up.
Really nice rhythm on this horse.
Yep. Headed to the last line. Clears the plank. Finishes on 0.
Beautiful round there, so it keeps their score to, I believe, 17.97. So that is in second place.
Yeah, exactly. Tables have turned, so I think it's down to Mathilde.
Chloe Kwong next to go with Kalea. Final rider for Zone 10. Has already accumulated 14.45 penalties. But her team has already secured the gold medal. So at least she can go around knowing that she's a team gold medalist.
Exactly. That offers a lot of relief, I think. you know, and she's going around as an individual, maybe probably out of the contention for the individual finals, but wants to put in just a very solid round.
It's a little sticky there. Still on the clear.
Gets the 4 done easy. I think she did contend with some time faults in the last round, so she looks like the time is. She looks like she's on it for that time.
Yeah, definitely looks more comfortable with this course.
Yep.
Really attacking it. And
Beautiful
gets
round.
The clear. So what a way to rally for her just as an individual rider. Of course, the clear, I mean, it does make it a very impressive 1.83 final score for them, which they already had it sealed, but she just made it a completely clear sheet for zone 10. So what an accomplishment there. And then for herself personally, coming in on a 7.45, not at the bottom by any means, but not at the top of the score sheets. And then a rail with some time faults in round 1 and coming back and putting in that clear. So really a big accomplishment for her there and for zone 10.
Exactly, and that should feel like an amazing accomplishment. I think that we're maybe not going to see Matilda come back.
It doesn't look like it. She was supposed to come a little earlier in the order. I'm not exactly sure where we stand because we look to be rebuilding. So I think that does bring this competition to a close. Yeah, I wonder if she withdrew. 43.85 is Canada's final score there. So Zone 10 is going to take the gold medal, and very handily. Quite a bit of a margin there between them and the silver medal finishers, Zone 4. So they ended up rallying, and while it looked like it was going to be really close up there at the top with all 4 clear rounds from Zone 4, they ended up with a couple rails down, but still took the silver medal. Zones 1, 3, and 5 are going to take the bronze medal with 20.51 penalties. So a bit of an interesting shake-up out there, and a huge accomplishment put forth by Zone 10. Not a single rail that counted towards their final score, so huge congratulations to them and to all of our podium finishers.
That is extremely impressive to finish with the score that you came in with, and you know, looking at the scores that all the teams came in with, you know, how it could have shaped up. I think zones 1, 3, and 5 really rallied strong. They were, I think, to me, the comeback kids of this whole pre-junior section, and they were very deserving of that bronze.
Well, there you see our individual standing. Lauren Franston holds that lead, 2 clear rounds and 0.28 penalties. So these riders are going to have a break tomorrow. The horses and riders will get a day off, and then they'll get to jump for individual medals on Saturday. But don't go anywhere because we have a podium presentation, and then we have our junior category kicking off just about 2:30 Eastern time. So still a good bit more show jumping here to come here in Traverse City. So be sure to tune back in so you don't miss any of it.
23. Some photos on horseback, then they'll dismount and make their places for podiums. Now coming in, our silver medal team. That's the team from Zone 4 taking the silver in the pre-junior category this year. Gabriella Curry with Candice Bergen. Suzette Tittle with Bull Run's Valor. Christian Hacker with Sparks, and Amy Krebs with Javantos. For combinations making up the team from Zone 4 silver medalists in the pre-junior category for the North American Youth Jumping Championships for 2023. The gold medalists are final to return on horseback, and the gold medal team coming from Zone 10 with the combinations of Juna Lauder and Nustar van der Berghoeven. Lauren Franson with Golda. Scarlett Wallace with Samurai, and Chloe Kwong with Kalea. The team from Zone 10, a gold medalist in the pre-junior division at the North American Youth Jumping Championships for 2023. Team from Zone 10 coming into team competition today on a score of 1.83, adding no faults to that total through 2 rounds of team competition today. We'll have Elena Kutanai and Ivan Rakowski on hand to present to our medalists in the team competition for the North American Youth Jumping Championships pre-junior category. Bronze medalists to take their place on the podium first. The team from Zones 1, 3, and 5 made up of Campbell L. Hudkins piloting Firefly, Riley McKesson with Armstrong de Moyon, Malia Radcliffe with Emma Lee, and Luke Reinhardt with Captain America 10, bronze medalists in the pre-junior division. Congratulations again, Campbell Hudkins, Riley McKesson, Malia Radcliffe, and Luke Reinhardt, the team from Zones 1, 3, and 5, taking the bronze medal. Silver medalists now, and it's the group from Zone 4 taking the silver in the pre-junior category at this year's North American Youth Jumping Championships. Gabriella Curry with Candice Bergen, Suzette Tittle with Bull Run's Valor, Christian Hacker with Sparks, and Amy Krebs with Chabantos, a silver medal team for the pre-junior category representing Zone 4 at this year's North American Youth Jumping Championships. Congratulations again to our silver medal riders, Gabriella Curry, Suzette Tittle, Christian Hacker, and Amy Krebs. Gold medalists to take their place on the podium now, and it's the team from Zone 10 taking the gold in the pre-junior category at this year's North American Youth Jumping Championships. Juna Lauder with Nustar van der Berghoeven, Lauren Franson with Golda, Scarlett Wallace with Samurai, and Chloe Kwong with Kalea, gold medalists for the pre-junior division. Gold medal team from Zone 10 with a score of 1.83 coming into the team competition today. No faults added in either round of today's competition, finishing on just the 1.83. As a group, congratulations again to Juna Lauder, Lauren Franson, Scarlett Wallace, and Chloe Kwong taking the team gold in the pre-junior category at the 2023 North American Youth Jumping Championships. Ladies and gentlemen, we ask that you all please rise and remove cover for the Star Spangled Banner in honor of our Zone 10 winners. Thanks to Elena Kutana and Ivan Rakowski for being on hand to our presentation to the medalists for the pre-junior category at this year's North American Youth Jumping Championships. Congratulations again to our bronze medalists, the team from zones 1, 3, and 5, Campbell Hudkins, Riley McKesson, Malia Radcliffe, and Luke Reinhardt, bronze medalists from zones 1, 3, and 5. Congratulations to our silver medalists from Zone 4, Gabriella Curry, Suzette Tittle, Christian Hacker, and Amy Krebs. And of course, our gold medalists from Zone 10, Juna Lauder, Lauren Franson, Scarlett Wallace, and Chloe Kwong. This time we ask that our riders remount for a lap of honor. Zone 10 going to lead us on a lap of honor, the gold medal team in the pre-junior category at the North American Youth Jumping Championships for 2023. That gold medal team from Zone 10 is Juna Lauder with New Star Vandenberg Hoover, Lauren Franson with Golda, Scarlett Wallace with Samurai, and Chloe Kwong with the Kalea.